Every single thing you do, everything you watch, it's all being recorded. That's where the money is. It's all being recorded. It's all being taken, captured, and put into files. What are they keeping those files for? Of what value is that going to be?
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We have our good friend W.H. Wisecarver on the line. But before we begin, what a timely interview this is. Our friends at Virtual Shield VPN reached out to me to sponsor this episode. I'm a Virtual Shield customer. I use the VPN myself. It's simple to use, and it masks your IP address from the prying eyes of Big Brother. Did you know that back in April, President Trump signed a congressional resolution repealing rules that would have required internet service providers to get your permission to collect, use, and sell the information about your online habits? That's right, they can spy on you and sell your information for profit. Guess what? You have the right to remain private, and it's very simple to do with a high-quality VPN like Virtual Shield. Check it out, guys. Here's my IP address without Virtual Shield, and here's my IP address with Virtual Shield. It's just that simple, and it's the reason why everyone should use a VPN. Virtual Shield does not keep any of your browsing logs whatsoever, so go to virtualshield.com right now and protect yourself against big data spies. Virtual Shield offers a variety of different packages starting as low as $5.99 per month, but I'd recommend the Protect My Family package, which can be used on as many as 15 devices at the same time. And if you click on the link directly below this video in the More Information section, SGT Report viewers can get 20% off their order. So click on the link, head over to virtualshield.com, and start your 30-day trial for free right now. My goodness, I can't even keep up with what's happening with the Las Vegas shooting. The story keeps evolving so quickly. It's really the most incredible story that I can think of besides 9/11. This Las Vegas false flag shooting, guys, is waking people up in droves. And even the mainstream media is taking notice to the degree that we have Tucker Carlson asking very pertinent questions about hero Jesus Campos and the ever-evolving story. Why did he flee to Mexico after the shooting? How did he get back? If he was shot in the leg, how did he drive 700 miles?
What do we actually know about Jesus Campos? For example, is he really a licensed security guard? We checked today, and it turns out he's not registered with the state of Nevada's Private Investigators Licensing Board. Confused by this, we called the Clark County Sheriff to find out what license is required to be a security guard at a Las Vegas casino. The Sheriff's office refused to tell us this. Jesus Campos is a victim, the spokesman said. We don't speak about victims. Naturally, we repeated the question. He became angry, he started yelling, and ultimately hung up on us.
The FBI doesn't want to answer any of these questions. And you know what? We're going to keep hacking at the root of truth until we get to the truth of the matter, because we know the deep state is in charge. I have W.H. Wisecarver, an author, back on the line, a friend of SGT Report. You guys can check out his books, the Resurrection series, on Amazon. Please do support the author. $9.99 for the Kindle edition. Come on, guys, go check it out. Resurrection series on Amazon. W.H. Wisecarver is here. Bill, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Sean. How are you today?
Thanks doing
for
all
having
right.
me back.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you back, man. Thanks for coming back on. There is so much going on. The deep state is now, in my opinion, the shadow government, as former CIA agent Kevin Shipp has told us, is in charge.
Human life's cheap to the shadow government, folks, and that includes us. They've staged 80 coups overseas, and they've engaged in multiple false flags. I endorsed a book called Operation Gladio, The Unholy Alliance. I recommend you read it. It's by Paul Williams. He documents the CIA staging false terrorist attacks in Italy to make it look like the Italian government was doing it, and they killed at least 491 people to do that.
It goes deep, 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 and we see these people targeting the sitting president now. I was at the club on the treadmill the other day, and Wolf Blitzer dedicated his entire show to targeting the president, saying he's unfit for office, and then in the middle of that CNN Wolf Blitzer show, Bill, here's the spot that I saw play in its entirety from billionaire Tom Steyer, who's trying to drum up 1 million signatures to impeach the president. Listen to this.
He's brought us to the brink of nuclear war, obstructed justice at the FBI, and in direct violation of the Constitution, he's taken money from foreign governments and threatened to shut down news organizations that report the truth. If that isn't a case for impeaching and removing a dangerous president, then what has our government become?
That's a very, very pertinent question, Bill. What has our government become? Because I'm here to tell you that Tom Steyer would not be making such a commercial if Hillary Rotten Clinton was president. He'd just look the other way as it pertains to her litany of crimes.
You're absolutely right. And what it has come down to is that you have two competing forces now looking, and that is on both sides of the Republican and Democratic machines, are looking at Trump as the enemy, and that is why you're seeing the president being attacked by both sides. In that little clip there is a perfect example. It was not, I don't agree with the way, getting in a name calling with the nuclear triggered now 27-year-old sociopath that's running North Korea. I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says and how he says it. The fact of the matter is, though, it is not Donald Trump that has brought us to the brink of nuclear war. It is not Donald Trump that has showed what the FBI was doing on the campaign. And I think some of the other recent allegations that have come out now showing that it was the Democratic Party that was working with the Russians and not Donald Trump. We have yet to see anything about that. We're seeing all these things that they want to blame the president on, and he's not being able to, they're not allowing him to even get his message or his agenda up forward. So would we be seeing these things as Hillary Clinton was the president? No, we would not, because the train would be running just fine as it has been for the past 35 years.
I want to ask you about the JFK documents. I can't believe the deep state is comfortable, the CIA is comfortable with these documents being released, because it's probably going to point directly to who actually shot the president. The majority of Americans believe there was a conspiracy to kill that president, and that the Warren Commission's lone gunman theory, and it requires a magic bullet to believe it, is not accurate of what actually happened on November 22nd. But before we get there, I do want to ask you this as it relates to Clinton and the deep state and the mainstream media. You said that they would not be targeting Clinton if she was in the White House. Do you think that the majority of Americans are waking up to this deep state apparatus, which is exemplified by the mainstream media, not really reporting on the fact that the Clinton campaign and the DNC helped fund the Trump dossier, this whole bogus Russian Trump collusion, all made up out of whole cloth? Your thoughts on whether or not the deep state is now being laid bare for Americans to see? I really think that people are waking up in droves. Another case in point is this Las Vegas shooting. We can't get a straight answer from the FBI on any of it. None of the evidence matches up. The eyewitness accounts, the police scanner recordings, all point to multiple shooters. How do they expect everybody to remain asleep when it's just so evident now that the deep state is in control and targeting this president?
I understand your point, and I think the reason why it's coming out as loud as it is that I believe in the innate intelligence of the average American, and from all walks of life, all the way across the country. I have, of course, through my background and what I've been doing in my life, I've had an opportunity to be across the strata, from the highest reaches of government and Wall Street to the farmer out in the middle of Kansas. So I have never thought that the American people fully believed or didn't believe that there wasn't a deep state, or that there was corruption at the highest levels of our government. What is happening, and because they have been getting away with it for so long, and I really believe it started in probably when the wall came down and the Cold War was over, there was no longer an excuse for the oppression, for the funding that was going to the deep state apparatus. And what happened is basically these people quit hiding. These people quit trying to cover up what they were doing. They were being so blatantly obvious in it that now they can't hide with the election of Donald Trump, and quite frankly with some of the things that you're hearing now from Steve Bannon. This is the problem. They quit hiding it. I mean, we went in 2003 and we invaded another country with basically 1/3 of the amount of troops that we needed, and then and under a false pretense. Well, this is exactly what happened in the Gulf of Tonkin resolution that got us involved in Vietnam. But they didn't even try to hide it. They just went forward with it. They didn't even try to hide the fact that they took away Glass-Steagall regulations on the financial industry, let the financial industry go crazy, and then when they had, because of their greed, literally collapsed the global financial system, they bailed them out with taxpayer money. You don't need to be someone who pays attention to politics or have had the experience that I've had, or do the research that like people like yourself and a lot of your other guests do. And you don't have to be experts in these things. You can see it for what it is. And that is why the American people are still strongly behind Donald Trump. Whereas the system, both from the Republican and Democrat, I mean, some of the things that we've seen now with these Republicans, coming up and saying, I'm no longer going to be a part of this. They're retiring and making these statements. The American people can see it. And they are now, if you will, hoist on their own petard, the deep state, if you will, because they haven't even been trying to hide it for the last 20 years.
Right.
It has just been blatantly obvious out in the front.
Well, and you know what's scary about it is they, I guess, don't feel the need to hide it anymore because they have total control. And they don't necessarily have total control of the people, right? People know about the deep state now. People are angry about it, but what can the people do? I was watching a presentation from former CIA agent Kevin Shipp, who was talking about the deep state apparatus, the military-industrial complex, and the shadow government, and he just gave one example for how far-reaching this web of deceit and corruption is. He said that Lockheed Martin, and of course there's Skunk Works, Lockheed Skunk Works with all the hidden black projects, but Lockheed Martin has grown to be such a big apparatus within the shadow government deep state that he said they're funded to the tune of essentially a tax of $260 on every man, woman, and child in this country. You pay $260 every year, goes to Lockheed Martin to fund what they're doing. And that's just one aspect of this military-industrial complex deep state, and I believe it's that same deep state, the military-industrial complex, the CIA, who I believe took out President Kennedy. And now we have Trump saying he's going to release those 3,000 JFK documents when the CIA would like to see them withheld for another 25 years. Now, if that's not an example of Trump taking on the deep state, I don't know what is. Your thoughts?
I would agree. I would agree with what you're saying. And from the standpoint, though, that it is more than just the military-industrial complex now. And using Lockheed Martin as an example, right now, the top 5 defense companies literally get 35 to 40% of the entire defense budget. Now, what are they doing with it and how are they doing with it? The top 5 defense companies are the number 1 technology sellers to the United States government. And that not only includes DHS and the intelligence apparatus, but all the government agencies in and of themselves. Maybe this is why you're seeing a healthcare website that didn't even work cost $850 million. The entire startup capital that was needed to create Google, which is probably the most intricate, far-ranging global network that's ever been invented, well, they didn't get $850 to start up their entire network. And these guys paid $850 million for a website that never even worked. And this is where I think people start missing the point on the deep state, on the conspiracies, on everybody's so wrapped up in that. It's about the same thing that the Roman Senate was running around doing when they realized that they had control and access to a global empire, and it was all about how much can I take, and that's what's been. It's about wealth and power. That's all that it's about.
Deep state is run by money, power, and greed. That's what runs the deep state. The shadow government, their fuel is fear and intimidation.
Lockheed Martin doesn't have some global idea of taking over the world. They're making money. That's what this is about. And They're having to, of course, pay people within the Congress who are supposed to be regulating them and be doing things for the government, for the benefit of the people, our republic form of democratic government that we are supposedly having. But that's not happening. And the tax issue that we just saw is another example of it. And everything, and it gets from the top to there to, who killed JFK to down to the Las Vegas shooting. Because all of these things are used, manipulated for somebody to say, am I getting wealth or power from this? And the American people are starting to see that. That's how the president was elected, because people had had enough.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Well,
that's a lot of what I try to write in my novels, which, the first one came out in 2014. I warned everybody what was going to happen. In 2016, the next one came out, and I said, here's where you are, guys, and this is where you're going. Where do you go from here? And so I think that is the important thing, that people like yourself, and really the only people that are going to be telling us the truth and really be looking at these things and asking the questions, you personally, SGT, and some of the other ones that are on these independent news networks.
Where do we go from here? That's a very, very good question, because it seems to me that the American people, although having a steely reserve and tired of the corruption, may not have been pushed far enough yet to be willing to go into a full-blown revolution, because I don't know how we shake off this corruption if somebody like Hillary Clinton is still walking around free.
People, we start shouting, "Oh, let's have a revolution in the street." Let me tell you, they're planned for that. That's what they got DHS for. Yeah. That's why they passed the NORCOM. We have a Northern Command now. We have military being able to operate in here. Don't worry, they're ready for that. Okay, but we don't need to do that. All we need to do is get people to wake up and understand what these knuckleheads are doing. Why do you think these people are leaving Congress? Because now, after Reid got the law passed, these guys get to keep their PAC contributions. These guys are walking away from a tough re-election. They know they're not going to fight. They're saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna fight against we're gonna fight against Trump because he's saying naughty things. He's a potty mouth." Oh well. At the same time, they're walking away with $10-15 million in their PAC contributions that they get to keep. I mean, it's like the ultimate golden parachute. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm telling you these things because what I'm saying is that it's all an illusion. If the American people would just wake up and say to their elected officials or people running for office, say, we want campaign finance reform, because that's what's happening. People don't understand. The tax policy of this country is not the issue. The issue is the lobbyists that have put over 6,000 changes in the last 15 years to our taxes. Our tax, each and every one of us are under all the regulations of the IRS, and yet we're each treated like we're a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate under these regulations, whereas only about 0.5% of the regulations within the tax even affects the average American. You want real tax reform. What they've done is just set up for another political theater, which will never pass. And next year, they're never going to take it up, because you're going to be right in the middle of an election season. And all of this is for to get more PAC contributions from their people for their re-election campaigns next November. And that's all that this is. And they're going to nullify the president, what he's trying to do, and here we go all over again. And then they're going to keep pushing these things. They're going to keep pushing these things out so that they are not going to give up power. They're not going to give up power unless we make them do that. And the only way we can do that is to actually get out there and vote and become aware of the issues and understand the connections. To reach the level of power that these people are at right now, okay, there is nobody with clean hands.
Well, that's right, and
Okay.
that's right. And my position on the Bushes is my opinion, is that the Bushes created the Clintons, and it's the Mena, Arkansas CIA drug running that was exposed by Gary Webb, and he paid for it with his life. That really ties that whole picture together for me personally, and it really takes us full circle too, as it relates to Bush Jr., who then became president, and it was on his watch that 9/11 happened, and we had his buddy Dick Cheney, in control of PIAC down there in the basement of the White House, as whatever hit the Pentagon was allowed to hit it. And then we soon find ourselves in Afghanistan, right? And a couple of years later in Iraq, as you mentioned. And this Afghanistan thing really has my blood boiling. I want your opinion on Afghanistan, because really as it relates to Gary Webb and CIA drug running that he exposed in Mena, Arkansas when Clinton was governor, now we see Afghanistan, the U.S. military is essentially guarding the opium fields in Afghanistan. And under the Taliban's watch, opium production in Afghanistan was at an all-time low. Near an all-time low. Now it's near an all-time high. And I can tell you firsthand, living in the suburb where I am, there's now heroin in this suburb where it did not used to be, and people are dying. And it's all over the streets of this country, and it's starting to feel a little bit like the British opium wars against the Chinese. Like, who's bringing in this opium? How is it getting in? And based on my knowledge of Mena, Arkansas, I'd say it's intelligence agencies bringing it in. But your thoughts on Afghanistan, because it's really starting to destroy families, this drug issue here in this country. Heroin, legal opioids. It's just, I feel like it's war against the people from within.
Well, it is war against the people, but the people are collateral damage to it. And there again, this is what I think is important for people to understand. In the drive for wealth and power, in the drive for more, in the drive to take, okay, all of these things are happening. And they are happening by the people that have been elected and or have been designated by our Republican form of government to manage these issues for our benefit, for the safety of the nation, for the safety of the American citizens, for the betterment of the American goal to create a more perfect union. But unfortunately, that is not what they are about now. And the opiates are, if you notice, what's the first thing? First thing somebody says, the Attorney General Sessions says, well, we need more crackdown on longer prison sentences. Well, why don't you send the people that are pushing these drugs to prison instead of the people that are using these drugs because they have nothing? I always, when people bring these questions up, what I like to do is I ask them, I say, let me just throw out something for you. If tomorrow, let's just say, heroin became legal, you could buy it in the 7-Eleven, would you start taking heroin? And of course everybody says, well, no, I wouldn't take heroin. And you say, why? And you say, they say, it's a nullifier, or it ruins your life, and it takes your health, it takes your soul. And no one has ever been able to live through it. Okay, so why don't we focus on the problem of why somebody would want to nullify their life? We are spending billions of dollars. We are doing things like what we're doing in Afghanistan, supposedly to protect the American citizen, yet we're not spending a sliver to actually create a society where somebody doesn't want to nullify their life when they have absolutely nothing else to do but nullify their life. The opiate right now, and now it's just starting to come out. It came out with this, who's going to be the drug czar, and then it comes out that he's the one that allowed these drug companies to push this stuff out into the American people.
Right.
Okay, and then they say, he can't be the drug czar. Great. What'd they do? They put him back into Congress where he can write more laws to allow these people to happen. Okay, the American people, and that's, of course, the people in in Pennsylvania, in this person's district, that have to say, hey, enough of this, you're gone. You're gone. We have to vote you out. And that is what we are doing. And here again, it's my feeling that Steve Bannon, that what I've seen and some of the things that he's been talking about, he's talking the right talk. But we need to see people start walking the walk. We need to see the president walk the walk that they're talking. And that is what the American people elected him for, and that is what he's supposed to be doing. Okay? I agree with what they're trying to say, but we need to see some action on that, and we are not. And the American people need to take that, critically think about that, not worry about who's grabbing whose ass. We need to instead start thinking critically about what is going to happen. What did they just do this morning? They passed the budget. They passed this budget, and now they can move to the tax reform. So this is what the American people need to start focusing on. Three things, and what did I said before? I know I sound like a broken record. I know I'm not really, I'm not as entertaining as some people with all the wild theories and everything else. But three things the American people need to do: they need to vote for the person that promises them A, and B, shows them the plan on how to get comprehensive campaign finance reform, to reinstate the Glass-Steagall laws, and then to nullify, to repeal the Patriot Act and close DHS. And if you did those three things, you would probably solve 70% of the problems in our country.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. That's exactly where I was going to go next, and I was going to ask you about those three things because I know they're very important to you. And I wanted to ask you specifically about point 3 in the DHS. I despise the DHS for a variety of reasons, not the least of which I know that, because I lived through it, I know that it was created on the back of the 9/11 lie. It was created, it's very Nazi-esque, and I'm going to play for you right now an eyewitness testimony from Las Vegas. I have no reason to disbelieve this woman. She says that she was at the Hard Rock when gunshots were fired. She says, multiple shooters. She says DHS was there and had the whole thing locked down before the FBI was even there.
Now, here's what I find very, very funny about all this media coverage, okay? Everybody's talking about the LVPD and everybody's talking about the FBI. But I know for a fact Homeland Security was there and they were running shit. They were running everything, okay? FBI wasn't there yet. They were not there. Homeland Security was there. And they are the ones who vetted the bomb threat out.
And so I just want to ask you why it is that you despise the Department of Homeland Security as much as I do. Why should we get rid of the Patriot Act? And how do we get rid of it? And why should we disband the DHS? I fully agree with you, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, the Patriot Act is probably the most unconstitutional law that has ever been passed. And we had never saw anything like it up until the start of World War I, or Americans' involvement, and then passing the Espionage Act. That was quickly done away with, though, by the 20s. The Patriot Act basically breaks about 3 different amendments of the Constitution. And it breaks the first and fourth article. It is patently wrong. So constitutionally, no democracy, democratic government has ever been able to live through once these things start coming, which is why in the book I use the parallels of the Weimar Republic in Germany at the end of World War I and what happened to the Weimar Republic in the rise of the Nazis. And I use that, kind of showing our history of from 1945 in the books and the novels. That's one of the fictional ways that I bring out these things. So constitutionally wrong. Now the next thing is that we are spending $60-70 billion a year, which we know about. There's a lot of classified parts of that. And what are we getting for that? What is the DHS doing? Okay? Well, what have they done? How have they saved us? If you look at since its inception, and people say, "Oh, well, we haven't had a terrorist attack." No, we haven't, and we haven't had a terrorist attack 70 years or 45 years, if you will, since before 9/11. Okay, and then look at what DHS. Look how much help they did in Katrina. Look how much help they've been doing now for us. Supposedly they were supposed to be doing this. Additionally, they're supposed to be, they're spending billions of dollars in creating this surveillance state. That surveillance state is seeping into us. They still are dealing with people like Equifax. They're still dealing with they're protecting the people that are opposed to us, or at least have absolutely no reason to help us or to be able to support us. And then finally, if you really look at it, strictly from a financial standpoint, we have an infrastructure that's collapsing. We have children that aren't being educated. We have lack of health care in this country. We have lack of all of these things. I mean, we've got people in Detroit, right? And quite frankly, in a lot of places. When I was a child, people might be surprised at this, but when I was a child, you could go to the faucet and you could drink the water. You can't drink the water in any major metropolitan area really healthily anymore. Okay? So do we need to spend $60 billion so that people can actually load up and find out, everybody's phone call? And what's happening to these data, these fusion centers and all of this data? It is just like an Equifax, only it's even more, it's even bigger, in that a file is started on every single American as it comes in, and every single thing you do, everything you watch, everything, it's all being recorded. That's where the money is. It's all being recorded. It's all being taken, captured, and put into files. What are they keeping those files for? Of what value is that going to be? Okay? And so if you look at this thing from a constitutional standpoint, from a benefit to the citizens for their tax dollars, and for the necessary needs that we have in this country, in our society, you can, regardless of whether you're a conservative or a liberal or a libertarian, tell me what DHS is doing other than creating a vehicle to which, right now, in my own view, it's all about the money.
Yeah.
It's all about the money. All these contractors are making money, everybody's fine. But budget and the committee chairman and chairwomen are making lots of money off this thing, PAC contributions, everything else. What happens when somebody walks in and wants something more than the money, and they've got this vehicle all put together?
Well, that's the problem. No, I completely agree with you, and it's a Orwellian police state Big Brother apparatus that would make Orwell himself blush, I think. And the punchline is, we're paying for our own enslavement, because it's our tax collections. It's our, at this point, I think, a completely unconstitutional tax system that is keeping us on the plantation, and they've built out this police state apparatus now. To say the very least, it's appalling and horrifying. Okay, I think that's an understatement, because it's far worse than just appalling or horrifying. It should not be allowed. It should be dismantled, and the American people should be marching in the streets to get their constitutional form of government back. Guys, you're listening to W.H. Wisecarver. I gave him a lousy introduction at the top. He's far more than just an author. He's a former Marine and Top Gun graduate. He served as a national security advisor on a U.S. Senate leadership staff and counsel for the Senate Armed Services Committee. He knows his stuff. And Bill, before we let you go, before we lose you here, do you currently still live in Las Vegas?
Yes, sure do.
I should have remembered that, and I should have contacted you the minute this shooting happened, because I just want your opinion on this. As it pertains to the official story of what happened in Las Vegas, you've been in those casinos, have you not? I mean, I think that those casinos probably have big brother eyes in the sky that would make even DHS jealous. These guys aren't messing around when they have billions of dollars of cash moving through their casinos on a weekly basis. I think it's pretty remarkable that we haven't seen one stitch of video evidence from the MGM or from the FBI. Nothing's been released to back up the official story. Nothing. How did this guy get access to the cargo elevators at MGM? Was he on those elevators alone? All good questions that now even Tucker Carlson are asking. Your thoughts, being somebody who lives in Vegas, who knows about the deep state, who knows about the FBI corruption with Robert Mueller, etc. Does this official story, in your opinion, add up at all?
Well, does the official story add up? What is the official story? It changes. It seems to change fast.
Right.
And here again, this is the problem. This is the problem when people start focusing on the conspiracy instead of going back to what are the facts that we know and why are they not letting those facts out, or why are we learning about this? There's something right off the bat up front that no one has talked about. And of course, because I was here. Do you know that country western, they keep calling it, well, it was a country western, the Harvest Festival, and it was country and western, something else that was part of that. It was a Christian country western music festival. Mm-hmm. They haven't talked about that at all. Nobody wants to talk about that one. You talk about how was this guy around? Why didn't we see some of this more video? You're absolutely right. The casinos, these guys down the street from me, they invented surveillance. They're the ones that invented it. So why haven't we? Well, here again, I have to go back to Occam's razor. And, two competing theories. Take the one that is easier the easiest one is usually the one that's going to be the proper one. And I will tell you only that if tourists stopped coming to Las Vegas for 1 month, this town would go bankrupt. So why did everybody get so upset? Oh, there's nothing to do. It has nothing to do with it. Don't worry about it. You keep coming here and spending your money. That's all that these guys are going to be worried about. And is there something more to it? God only knows. There again, between heaven and hell, there are worlds unimaginable. As I like to use in the book in several places. The Kennedy assassination, like you said, 70% of the Americans say, no, don't try to tell me this is just one lone nut that made an impossible shot and able to get so many bullets out so fast. No, everybody watches the Zapruder film. I mean, all you have to do is just look at that film one time, and you see where the headshot came from. You literally see it. Okay, now they're going to release this. Well, are we going to have a bunch of revelations? They've had 50 years to clean those files. You don't think they haven't been working on that for the last 50 years? Of course they have. The people that I'm going to be interested in hearing about, because it's literally a lifestyle for a lot of these guys, is the people that are going to actually be able, that have brought so many of these allegations and revelations of what was happening and during the time and the assassination themselves. I'll be interested to hear what they have to say. But all I know is that what happened afterwards tells you everything that you need to know. Okay, what's going to happen after this? Investigation comes out on the shooting here, then we'll understand a little bit more about what was the reasons and whys and wherefores, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, well, it does, and I fully suspect at some point that one of the predictions has been made that what they want to do is roll out TSA DHS style airport body scanners in the hotels at Vegas, all in the name of our security, and ultimately roll that apparatus out nationwide. And of course, again, it's these same insiders that will profit from that should it happen. But I'm here to tell you, I have no interest in staying at a hotel that would roll out that kind of technology. And we'll see where it goes from here. You're absolutely right about the Vegas shooting. There's a lot of information that we don't know, and we're going to keep an eye on it to try to figure out what really happened. The official story, the official narrative does not add up. And again, even Tucker Carlson is starting to take notice of that. So, Bill, you know how much we appreciate your time, your voice, your intellect. Can you remind people how they can get your books if they want to get copies?
Well, you can reach me at and get a little view of the book at Amazon and on Barnes & Noble. And my email is bill@whwisecarver.com. And you'll be able to get that be able to see some of these things and take it. And I wrote it so that exactly like you said, the American people need to wake up and realize what's happening. And also, and this is why I put it in this book, here's the history. Here's what happened. Here's why it happened. And here's what you can do about it. Because we have right now the technology, the financial resources, and the pure intellectual brain power. And I'm talking about everybody from a farmer in Iowa to a programmer in Silicon Valley to a beach bum in Florida. We have the intellect to fix every problem that we have, but we're going to have to wake up and understand what the issues are. Vote wisely this next coming November, because we have a chance to change it. Keep the message up, my friend. Keep pushing it.
Yeah.
And I thank all your viewers. I thank all your viewers, and all your viewers need to tell one other person to come in, listen to SGT, and ask yourself those questions, and keep thinking about what's the reality behind the myth. Because once you do that, you realize that the deep state, as terrifying as it is, as overpowering as it is, as corrupt as it is an illusion by which they control you, and you have the power to change that. You have the power to change that. But that's probably a discussion for another time. Continue to press, my friend.
That's exactly what we need. I love the cup half full perspective. I get that from my friend Harley Schlanger too. You remind me a lot of Harley Schlanger by saying the things you just said, Bill. So thank you so much for that. And guys, as many of you know, there are patriots in our government, patriots who used to be in our government. People around this country are waking up and are engaged and do really care. So I don't think all hope is lost. And if you guys want to support Bill, please do check out the Resurrection series of his books there on Amazon. Our guest has been W.H. Wisecarver. Bill, thank you so much.
Thank you, son.
All right. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate your support at sgtreport.com. Check us out at thephaser.com for hand-selected videos I choose myself for you. And thelibertymill.com. It's all real news, 24/7, the antidote to corporate propaganda. God bless you all. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
It's a concerted effort in the first time in history in America, to have a coup d'etat of a sitting administration by creating an environment of Russophobia being the key feature with absolutely no evidence whatsoever